You're listening to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast with Mike Chappell and Dave Griffiths.
Hello and welcome to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast. I'm Matt Adams with a game recap. This week, the Colts lost 24-6 at home to the Detroit Lions. Not really a major surprise that the Colts would lose to Detroit. I know that Dave had predicted that this would be the game that the Colts weren't expected to win this season, that they would emerge victorious in, and it looked like early on in this game perhaps they were setting themselves up for that, but you know, when you don't convert in the red zone, you don't do what you need to do to score touchdowns, and then you just commit a litany of penalties. You're not going to win a lot of football games. So starting out well enough, the Colts got a field goal. They gave up a touchdown to Detroit, and then on the next drive, the Colts drove right down the field again, using some good passing, some rushes from Richardson to get down the field, but they could not get the ball in the end zone. In fact, a pass went right through the hands of Drew Ogletree. It would have 100% been a touchdown. All you got to do is catch it. It would have been a much different ball game if they could have converted either of those field goals into touchdowns, but they couldn't, and then the offense just kind of went into a coma in the second half. Just a lot of punts, a lot of first and longs. You know, you find yourself in a 1st and 15 or a 1st and 20, or you complete a big pass to Josh Downs or Kylan Granson, and then it gets called back because you've got a holding penalty. And that's kind of the day it was for the Colts. That'll drop into 5-7 on the season. They've got New England next week. And their schedule's pretty soft here down the stretch, and they're on the outside looking in on the playoff picture with these games remaining, and it's not an ideal situation for them right now. They've lost 4 or 5, though, and are still not completely out of the playoff picture. So if they can string together a couple wins, as laughable as that seems at some points, if they can string together a few wins here, they can definitely make it interesting, but there are a lot of good teams in the AFC that are ahead of them. Some of these good teams are, not able to win their division, so they're going to have to settle for wild cards. So the Colts are definitely looking at that 7th wild card spot. That is where they're going to be. They can mathematically win the division, but they have not helped themselves in that respect either, because the Houston Texans have lost several games lately. They lost to the Titans yesterday in a wild one, and the Colts were not able to pick up a game on them despite that. So it's not impossible. It's not inconceivable for the Colts to enter the playoff picture. But right now, things are not looking great. Let's take a look at some statistics. Jonathan Taylor, 11 carries, 35 yards. It feels like JT was waived at halftime. Now, this is not all Jonathan Taylor's fault, of course. The Colts got themselves down in this game, so you're going to go with a pass-heavy offensive strategy here when that happens. And then, secondly, the interior of the offensive line, without Ryan Kelly right now, is just a mess, especially on that right side. Braden Smith's not playing at Braden Smith level. Dalton Tucker was just getting pancaked by the defense a couple of times this week. And so there's just no running room up the middle. And JT's accustomed to, when he gets the ball, at least having some room to try to make a move. And it's just not there. And then the Colts just pretty much abandoned that in the second half. Michael Pittman Jr., 6 catches for 96 yards, probably the highlight player for the Colts this week, playing through some pain. He injured his hand a couple of weeks ago. Got banged up his shoulder in this game. We know he's been dealing with that back injury all the time. That's kept him out of practice at times, but he's come out and he's played. He made some tough catches in this game. Unfortunately, didn't mean a whole lot for the team. Alec Pierce, 1 catch, 40 yards. Just a beautiful throw on that one from Richardson. Richardson also missed Pierce a little earlier in the game when he had him wide open, and that could have broken things open too. Josh Downs, 3 catches for 27 yards. Distressingly, left the game with an injury, came back, tried to dive for a ball in the end zone, left the game again. Steichen said didn't think it was a major injury, so let's hope that's the case, because honestly, even though he had only the 3 catches for the 27 yards this week, Josh Downs has been pretty effective for them on offense. Also had a carry in this game as well. Tight end, 0 catches on 3 targets. A couple of those got called back because of penalty. One, as I talked about, was dropped. in the end zone. On the defensive side, E.J. Speed, 11 tackles. DeForest Buckner, 7 tackles and a sack. Latu feels like he's starting to come on here a little bit. 4 tackles. He had a sack fumble in this game that, again, one of the few things the Lions did wrong here. Latu made a great play, got the ball free, but the Colts were unable to come up with it, and that's just kind of the day it was for the Indianapolis Colts here. So Zaire Franklin also had a sack, I think, if I didn't mention that. Nick Cross with 14 tackles, Zaire with 13 on the game and that sack as well. Colts just buried in time of possession. It wasn't this way in the first half, but by the time the second half rolled around, 37-01 to 22-59 in advantage of the Lions. The Lions ran 72 offensive plays, the Colts 49. So just, especially in the second half, Lions just old school football, just able to run the ball on you. When they can't run the ball on you and it's 3rd and 8, they manage to pick up 9 or 10 yards every time. Just guys find those soft spots in the zone. Goff just being able to create enough space and get enough room to get these passes off and find guys. I will say for Detroit, no shame in losing to Detroit. This is as good as a team as any in the league right now, and they're playing great. They've won 9 in a row. They're 10-1 on the season, and I think from a sentimental standpoint, there are a lot of fans in the NFL who would not mind seeing Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions go far into the playoffs this year and maybe make it to the Super Bowl. It's going to be tough for them. There are a lot of good teams out there. Things are never easy in the league. And, man, especially on defense right now, they are missing some key pieces. Aiden Hutchinson's just not a guy that you replace. And they brought in Zadarius Smith, and they're trying. They've got some good defensive linemen as well. We saw them just pancake some Colts guys and twist them around and just blow past some of the Colts offensive lines. So, but missing Anzalone, one of their linebackers, really a big loss. And then I think they were down a cornerback as well. So, but still a good defense, still a solid team. Despite those losses, just they would be so much better with those guys. Season high 10 penalties for Colts. For 75 yards. The 10 accepted penalties, according to our Mike Chappell, was the most they've had since that meltdown against the Minnesota Vikings in 2022, which you hate to have to keep comparing any game to that, but here we are. Those penalties wiped out about 59 yards in receptions for Josh Downs, took away, finally, Taylor busted a run, but it got called back for a hold. Kylan Granson had a nice grab where he went up and got it, but it was negated by a hold from Drew Ogletree. And the Colts were just constantly behind schedule, especially in that second half. It felt like that second half was entirely in Colts territory, whether the Colts had the ball or the Lions had the ball. Just on that side of the 50, just felt like the Colts were always backed up there. It was a 1st and 15 or a 4th and 18 one time, a 3rd and 15. Just penalties really killed the Colts. And, this is a game in which they did not allow a sack, most of that on the strength of Anthony Richardson, who, is very difficult to get down, able to get the ball away a couple of times in some plays where other quarterbacks would just have to take the sack because he's just so big and he's strong. So no sacks of Richardson, and also Richardson managed not to turn the ball over. He did have a fumble. He was on a scramble, ball got hit. He managed to recover that one. But overall, ball security was not a real issue for the Colts in this game. I mean, I think I can only think of really one throw that Richardson made that was kind of one of those oh no type of throws. He stared down the receiver on the right side, and it looked like 3 Lions were just waiting for there to be there to catch it. Fortunately for the Colts, nobody did catch that one. That's about the only one that I can think of that Richardson just kind of threw. He had a couple of misfires, and I'll talk about his evaluation after we hear from him. But first, let's hear from Colts head coach Shane Steichen.
All right, injury-wise, Ashton Doolin was the only guy right now with an ankle. Obviously a tough loss there. Hats off to Detroit, hell of a football team. We had some opportunities there. Weren't able to take advantage. Obviously, offensively, got down in the red zone a few times, had to settle for 2 field goals there in the first half. Penalties hurt us. Starts with myself. We got to get those cleaned up. We had a season high 10 penalties, I believe, for 75 yards. That's on me. We can't have that. We got to play clean football going forward.
Did you put yourselves, because of those penalties and just the tough spots that put Anthony and your offense in specific?
Yeah, it's tough. When you're 1st and 20 and 2nd and 20, those are tough situations. Again, we got to play clean football. It's fundamentals, technique, and it starts with me.
Why do you think it's been so hard to run the ball with Jonathan Taylor these past 2 weeks?
I don't know. We got to get that figured out. That starts with me, myself too. We got to get him going on the ground, and we go from there.
There were so many penalties today, just a variety of the ones that you had.
I don't know. We had some holding calls. We had a hand to the face. We had a big play to downs. They called the pick play on us. It was one of those days. We got to get it cleaned up.
Should you give the number of lines?
It's hard to see from, it happens. It's bang, bang play. There's no replay. You guys probably got it on the TV copy better than I did. So I don't know.
Shane, given the number of Lions fans here, were you ever forced to go to a silent count?
No, we weren't. Early in the game it was a little loud, but I think we were all right a few times. But yeah, that's where it was.
Shane, how would you assess the way Anthony played today?
I thought he played well. Obviously, took care of the football. Like you said, we were in some tough situations there with him on 1st and 20, some 2nd and longs. Those are hard to overcome sometimes. But I thought he battled like crazy throughout the whole game for sure.
As hard as it is, and you got Drew drops that touchdown pass. It's going to be hard anyway, and that just makes it.
Yeah, like I said, we've got to take advantage of our opportunities, when we got them. Obviously, this league comes down to inches, it comes down to yards, and you got to take advantage of those opportunities when you have them.
What goes into fixing those issues on 3rd down and in the red zone?
Yeah, I think obviously you look at the tape, you go clean up. Obviously, you got to run the plays that you think are going to, be successful against that style of defense, and have answers versus zone coverage, have answers versus man coverage when you're throwing the football.
Did run Anthony pretty consistently early on. Were there fewer opportunities to do that, maybe because of the down distance later, or? Yeah,
a few times. He threw it good too, a little bit early to start as well. Like I said, then the down and distances, like you said, kind of hurt us in those, 1st and long situations, 2nd and long situations, which, we can't put ourselves in those. Again, it starts with myself. We got to get it cleaned up.
We ask you this every week, it seems like, but with Pitt, he comes out, looks like he hurts his shoulder.
Yeah.
And he just plays.
Yeah, so saying that the guy's tough as nails. He just shows up, and when you need to play to him, boom, he makes the play, and that's what he did again today.
Not rubbing off on Josh Downs at all? Like what? Is he just with Josh? Is he good to go? I saw you back.
He was good to go. He was good.
Are you guys maybe feeling the effects of the injuries on the offensive line in terms of some of the it seems like it's been hard to get anything.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. Those guys are battling like crazy every week, and we got to do a great job of putting them in position to be successful.
Zaire broke Shaq's record today at his first sack of the season. As a positive, how big was he for
That's awesome. Zaire's a hell of a football player, leader on our football team. He shows up every week, prepares the right way, and obviously he makes the plays on Sunday, and hats off to him for that.
What makes the penalties today extra frustrating in a game like this?
Well, we knew it was going to be a 4-quarter game going into it, and then, when you have big plays that get called back, I felt like there's a few of them that, it felt like every time we hit a 20-yarder or a 30-yarder or something, was called back. And so, obviously, those hurt you in those situations.
The timing of penalties matters probably more than anything. I don't know, maybe it's just chance, but was that particularly?
Yeah, I think so. You hit a big play down in the, you get into the plus territory. That when we hit the downs, that thing moves all the way back. We had another one. We started off, hit a big gain on a, thing to Granson, and that moves you back to the 10. Again, we got to clean it up. I got to clean it up. I'm the head coach.
Defensively, they get you hold to 24. Did you feel like the defense kept it winnable?
Yeah, heck yeah, they did. Shoot, they were battling their tails off. Obviously, they did some good things offensively. Credit to Detroit, but our defense to hold that team to 24 points. They've been averaging 33 a game. I thought they played well.
Do you have to reevaluate anything with the offensive line? You said they're fighting, but
yeah, we'll look at the offensive line. We'll look at everything. But again, I got a lot of faith in those guys. Man, they're going to keep battling like crazy. We'll be fine.
what makes the Lions offense so challenging?
I think they're multiple in their scheme. They do a lot of good things, running the football, throwing the football. They hit some screens. I think Goff's playing at a high level. They're playing really good ball right now.
When it comes time to evaluating Anthony's development and his composure, just building off last week, how tough is that when he's like under duress so often? Because he had to make a lot of off-platform plays.
Yeah, gosh, he made some good plays, off-platform throws. Obviously he had a big one on third down, and we had a holding call on that one. But again, he's battling like crazy. I thought he was good. He didn't turn the ball over. Made some good plays with his legs on that first drive. We just got to find a way to finish in the red zone, to get those touchdowns going forward.
That was head coach Shane Steichen reacting to the team's home loss to the Detroit Lions, 24-6, your final score there. I'd like to note that is the Lions own the league's longest active winning streak. They have not, and they are also 6-0 on the road this season. So they are a tough out. They're going to be a tough out for anybody. As this season goes on, they can run the ball, they can throw the ball, they can usually protect their quarterback. They're stout against the run. They don't give up a lot of big plays. And I think, Steichen talked a lot about preparation, and he's going to take it all on his shoulders. And we hear this time and time again from Coach Steichen. When the team doesn't perform up to standards, it's his fault. He always takes it on his shoulders, and I do think that's one of the reasons that players like playing for Steichen. He's not going to throw a lot of guys under the bus and that sort of thing. But and it's never an effort thing with this Colts team. It's not like when you say, "Oh, it was a poor effort." It's not that they're not trying out there. It's just the results were not good, and even the defense had some nice moments. Almost picked off a pass a couple of times from Goff. They did manage to get to him, sack him 3 times. They made him scramble a couple of other times to blow up some plays. They got a huge stop on a 4th and goal, or a fourth down situation, caused a turnover on downs early in the second half, and forced a fumble that they were unable, unfortunately, to recover. But so they did a lot of good things on defense, but they also did some things that we're used to seeing here. You get into a 3rd or 7, a 3rd or 8 situation. Feels like the Colts aren't able to close the door in those situations. And, Jared Goff is a pretty savvy guy, and he's got good receivers who know where to find the holes in the zones, and they find them. And so suddenly that 3rd and 8's a 9-yard completion, and it's a first down. It keeps the drive alive, and then it just keeps happening. Then they're also able to run the ball pretty well, especially on the perimeter. What got me the most is and you heard the announcers call it out a couple of times, and the first time they ran it, it was like a 3rd and 8, and they picked up, I think it was David Montgomery picked up 17 yards. And I'm thinking to myself, watching that defensive alignment, it's a light box. Won't be surprised if Detroit runs the ball here and is able to get close to the first down, and, they're able to do it. They picked up the first down and more, and that set up a touchdown. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, it's just, or fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. There were a couple other times where the Lions were in a 3rd and long situation in which everybody's expecting pass, but we've also seen the tendency where they run. And of course, it's going to be one of those things, too, where Goff's going to get up to the line of scrimmage, and he's going to, call the play based on what he sees. So that's entirely possible as well. But, gosh, you've got to know, especially when it's happened to you once or twice, when you're in a 3rd and long situation, that the Lions might try to sneak in a run. And not only are going to be able to sneak in a run, their offensive interior line is going to get a push, get to that 2nd level, and you're not going to be able to stop them. And you're going to give up the 3rd down conversion. And so we saw that a few times today, or yesterday from the Colts and from the Lions. Just some of that gamesmanship going on. Jahmyr Gibbs, 21 carries for 90 yards. Goff, had an okay game, 26 of 36. You'll take that on the completion percentage for 269 yards. No touchdowns, but that running game just churns and keeps things going. And then Goff just does enough, even though they didn't have any of the big plays this week in the passing game, really, that, they're able to do what they want to do and did not give up a point in the second half. So this is a good team that the Colts lost to. There's no shame in losing to the Detroit Lions. I'm not saying that from a loser's mentality. Just, that's a good team that they welcomed in this week. I think they played at times in this game, they played well enough they could have made this a little more interesting. If they convert a touchdown on one of their 2 first possessions, then I think this game's a little bit different. If they're able to recover that fumble from Goff that Latu forced, then maybe things are a little bit different. If they don't surrender those 3rd and long runs, maybe things are a little bit different here. But the fact of the matter is they did do all those things. They added to it with the penalties and just the generally inefficient offense that the Colts are putting out there. And as good as they were last week, they were creative. They put Anthony Richardson in a position to be efficient, and he made plays with both his legs and his arms last week, and he was not able to do that this week. And I'm a little confounded about the offensive philosophy that they took this week. Now, I know you're going to look at different matchups. You've got different teams, so you've got different offenses, different defenses that you're going to use depending on what the other team does. I understand that. You game plan. The Jets do things differently from the Lions and so forth. That I understand. But what we saw probably last week, and the Jets are a terrible team, so it's not the best example to use. But we saw the best of what you can do with an Anthony Richardson-led offense last week against the Jets. That included a generous helping of runs from both Richardson and their star running back, and then some selective pass plays using them in key situations. And instead, this week, I think that the Colts got back to that. We're just going to have Anthony, first drive aside, they did do some designed QB runs in that first drive. But aside from that, it really felt like this was we're going to just let Anthony Richardson throw the ball over and over again and hope for better results. And the problem really wasn't Richardson this week. The stats were not great, 11 for 28, 172 yards, but he had zero turnovers, no fumbles, no interceptions, and they didn't sack him once. The Colts' problems this week were on protection. They could not protect Richardson. A lot of those incompletions, if you go back and look, a lot of those incompletions were just throwaways because Richardson did not have time. There were guys just running over the interior lineman and getting right in his face as soon as he took the snap. And, when you're facing those kinds of consequences, you're facing those kinds of challenges, it's going to be very difficult to get anything done on offense. And when the Colts were not able to score those touchdowns, to me, when I watched this game, it was effectively over when Drew Ogletree let the ball go right through his hands on what ended up being the Colts' second field goal. Once the Colts showed that they could not score in the red zone against the Lions, that was all she wrote for me. And the Lions came back, got another touchdown, and, they were up at halftime and then just, didn't even really have to do a whole lot in the second half, just kind of maintain status quo, get another touchdown, score a field goal, and that was enough to put down the Colts this week. Richardson did have 10 carries for 61 yards, ran with authority on the first couple of drives, and then they kind of got away from that. And then Jonathan Taylor, just the 11 carries for 35 yards. And Taylor did not have a good game against the Jets last week, but he had a high volume day. And that's because I think the Colts thought the Jets had some vulnerabilities in the run game. I don't think they believe the Lions had the same vulnerabilities. So you did not see the volume of carries from Jonathan Taylor this week that you saw against the Jets last week, but he just kind of disappeared in the second half. They had tight ends that can't catch passes. We had some drops. And, man, a guy for the Colts who usually just, does the little things really, really well let him down this week. Ashton Dulin. A 40-plus yard pass on the sidelines, perfect throw from Richardson, gets it right in the breadbasket, and Dulin, for some reason, doesn't try to drag a second foot inbounds. It was going to be a tough catch. I'm not saying it wasn't, but just the awareness that not able to get that foot in or even try to get that foot in from a guy who, plays so well on special teams, and when he comes into the offense, he usually does the little things really, really well. Just really disappointing, and just kind of does sort of show like what Steichen said there about, maybe a lack of preparation and maybe not coaching these guys upright. And, it just really makes you wonder. So it's really hard to say, it's hard to evaluate Richardson. And it's always been hard to evaluate Richardson. But, man, he came out, he ripped some really good throws this week. Go look at what he did to Alec Pierce. Look at the one that he did to Dulin that Dulin couldn't catch. Look at the one, it was a little bit high. He threw to Granson on the left side, but Granson got up and got it, and that's where that pass needed to be. Even the touchdown pass to Ogletree was right where that ball needed to be. And while Richardson does have a tendency to just kind of gun it and put too much mustard on some throws sometimes, that one to Ogletree wasn't one of those throws. So, but we had a lot of throwaways this week because he was under duress. He had guys in the backfield immediately, didn't give him any time to scramble around, extend the play, or even really read the defense or anything like that. So, and things weren't perfect. He had a couple other misfires. He had Alec Pierce, what would have been a really long throw in the first quarter. Couldn't find him on that one. Had a couple of throws that just, kind of airmailed and stuff like that. But generally speaking, I don't think you can put a lot of this game on Richardson the way that, like, the Texans game when they lost that one. They had a lot of turnovers, a lot of inefficiencies, and it just felt like Richardson was missing guys. And the Colts were repeatedly throwing the ball, and Richardson just was not making the right throws or be able to get the throws where they needed to be. This week I did not feel that way. I just felt like, man, give this guy some help. And maybe that's a little bit of revisionist history, but based on what we saw last week, we know that if you can give Richardson some help and avoid the penalties and the turnovers, the Colts can win games. And I realize that the Jets are a completely different team than the Lions. Just that team's a mess. That organization's a mess, while the Lions have somehow turned into a model NFL franchise. But, I said before this game that in order to beat the Lions, the Colts had to finish drives and play a clean game. They did neither of those things, and the result is a 24-6 loss that drops the Colts to 5-7. Let's hear from quarterback Anthony Richardson.
Kind of the stop and start nature of things because of the penalties. How did that really restrict you as an offense today?
As a team, it hurts us. Whenever you're out there playing a good team like that, you can't beat yourself and try to beat the other team at the same time. So the penalties definitely hurt us, but that's just getting back to the drawing board and just understanding the minor details and the discipline between each and every play and just going to make it work.
What do you think they did to make it so tough on JT?
I mean, they have a great front, we know that, but I feel like as an offense, we didn't do much to get JT going. Blocking up front, we could have been a little better. Me, zone reads, making some better reads for JT right there, and then just blocking outside as well. Just trying to work as an offense to get that guy going. But we just gotta all just improve in that aspect.
Yeah, how would you assess your performance today?
We lost, so it wasn't good enough. We just gotta get back to the drawing board. Like I said, focus on the details and just be better as a whole, not just individual.
What's an emotional swing with you when you make a big play to Downs or Granson, and then you look around and see a flag? I mean, are you celebrating and then you think, oh crap, or what?
It's not necessarily celebrating, but there is some type of excitement. It's like, okay, cool, we're moving the ball. But when you do see those yellow flags down there, it does hurt. It's like, man, like what happened? But we just gotta get back to it. Focus on the details and just keep playing complimentary football. The defense did a great job. Just as an offense, we just got to execute better.
You were surprised by what Michael Pittman, he gets banged up and he just has a game. Are you used to seeing him play like this?
Yeah, for sure. Tough guy. He's been doing it all year, playing with the back injury earlier this year. He's just a tough physical guy. He's out there playing all the time for us. It's nothing new. We know Pitt going to go out there and do his thing whenever he has the opportunity to do so.
What kind of challenge was it dealing with the pass rush? You had to throw with a lot of bodies around you and on you. What was that challenge like for you?
Sometimes it's challenging, but it's the nature of the game. Playing quarterback, you got to be able to maneuver in the pocket and make the pocket work. Regardless of what's going on up front. Just finding lanes to get the ball out to the receivers. But Detroit has a great defense. They did a great job of just bringing some guys right there and just getting back there. But I feel like we could have made some better plays right there in the backfield, in the pocket, and just also delivering the ball a little better.
You talked about trying to bring the physicality to Detroit this week. With the ball in your hands, how did you feel like you kind of did that today?
I feel like it was evenly matched today. They also brought the physicality to us. I feel like we could have been a lot more physical out there. I feel like we could have played a little bit more bully ball, to say the least. But they did a great job, but we just got to do a little better.
What do you say to Drew after that play?
Which one?
Drop touchdown. Like, do you say anything to him? Or you
Man, just stick with it. He's not going to catch every pass. I'm not going to throw a great ball every time. So, like I said, it's just the nature of the game. Whatever the game going to throw at you, you got to just adjust and just play ball. He dropped the ball, but, so what? I don't throw great passes all the time. So, it is what it is. We're going to get the next one.
What made it difficult for you guys to score in the red zone in the first half there?
Just execution. Drop passes, delivery. I could have threw some better passes, especially the one to the left to JD right there. But just execution. No penalties in the red zone and just finishing. We didn't finish the play calls that we did have, and we just didn't execute.
Did you know coming in, or did you, I guess, have the perspective that you guys did need to put some points up today?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's every week. But we knew, if we got behind on that team right there, we knew there was a chance that we could be down. But it is what it is. We had an opportunity, we just didn't take advantage of it, and they took advantage of theirs. So we got to look in the mirror and just figure out what to clean up.
Did you take your earrings out early again?
Yeah, I definitely did. They said I was bleeding somewhere. I guess it was my ear, but it is what it is.
Have you ever come more to do that before?
I did get cut one time earlier this year, but I kept it, man. It was cool.
You were a little animated there around the first couple drives. Was that what it was about?
When?
Well, coming off the field, it looked like you were a little more fired up than usual. Was there anything to that?
I don't know. I think it was maybe because I knew we were in the red zone and we just didn't finish. I think that's probably what it was. I don't necessarily recall the moment, but I think that's probably what it was right there.
Last one. Lost 4 of the last 5. What do you say, or how do you bounce back and try to keep the season on track?
Man, we just gotta execute. We knew that was a great team right there, but they didn't really do anything spectacular to beat us. They played that game the right way, and we didn't go out there and execute the way we knew that we were supposed to. We got behind the sticks a few times. We let them throw a few penalties on us because of our discipline and our details. But we just got to keep playing. Play complementary football, keep the details, and keep trusting the process, and just going out there and trying to find a way to win.
That was Indianapolis Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson reacting to the team's 24-6 loss to the Detroit Lions. Again, the Lions 10-1, one of the top teams in the league. They've won 9 in a row. They lost a Week 2 game to the Bucs and haven't looked back since then. Well coached, tough team, teams are a reflection of their coaches, and Dan Campbell's like a tough, hard-nosed guy, and this is a tough, hard-nosed team. So no surprise really that they could kind of, be a bit more physical in the Colts in this game and win this one on the road where they've been very, very good. And that should hopefully, for those of you who would pull for the Detroit Lions in the long term, I'm obviously not pulling for them this week if you're a Colts fan, but in the long term, hoping to see some success from a franchise that hasn't seen a lot of success in the postseason pretty much ever. You hope that a road win like this is just something that they'll be able to do, even if they have home field advantage in the playoffs. It just shows this is a tough team, and hopefully they will be a tough out in the long haul here. So yeah, just not great for the Colts. 5-7 on the season. They've got to contend now with the Dolphins, and they do at least have the head-to-head with the Dolphins, who are 5-6 right now. They'll have a chance against Denver, and Denver's playing some pretty good football. Don't see them a lot out here since they play out west, and don't often see them play. But they've got a good coach, and they're doing some good things with their young quarterback. So the Colts will have a shot at them in a couple of weeks. So for now, the task is the New England Patriots. This has been a not a very good team for the Patriots. They've had ups and downs. They've got a young quarterback, but it's a road game. You just never know how things are going to be on the road. So it'll be a 1 o'clock kickoff at New England. Game will be on CBS Network, and that'll be CBS 4 in the Indianapolis market here. So we'll have a full preview. We'll break down the matchup with the Patriots. We'll look at the injury report for the Colts, see how things are going, see if there's any personnel changes, especially along that offensive line. They did sign Mark Lewinsky to the practice squad, but I think he's 32 years old. He's not played in a while, so I don't think that's going to be a magic elixir for the interior of that offensive line, although he did play remarkably well for the Colts during the time that he was here. So that's the Game Recap Podcast for the Colts Blue Zone Podcast. Dave Griffiths and Mike Chappell. I'm Matt Adams. Thanks for listening.